Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. Rafa Benitez hosted his first press conference as Everton manager yesterday. He faced the press via Zoom at USM Finch Farm, and we're going to sit down today and talk about the press conference. We're going to go through everything that Rafa Benitez has said. We're going to talk about how I feel the press conference went in general, and we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about it because I actually thought it was a very good and insightful press conference, to be honest with you. I know there's some Evertonians that maybe weren't too happy with some of the questions that were asked by the media, but let's be honest, we knew some of the questions that were going to be asked, didn't we, before the press conference had even started. We knew that he was going to get asked about his connection with a certain other football club. We knew that he was going to get asked about some of the comments he's made in previous years. We knew that he was going to get asked about the banners that were outside the stadium and outside a house in over the water prior to his announcement as Everton manager. We knew that these are the questions that were going to be thrown to him, and these were the questions that were going to be thrown to him straight away. And I actually think that's why the club have decided to wait for a week or so before actually putting Rafa Benitez in front of the press and having his first press conference. And I think that's a very clever decision, to be perfectly honest with you, because typically once a new manager is announced, you would see a press conference fairly quickly, whether it be the day that they're announced, the day after, a couple of days after. It's been nearly 2 weeks since Rafa Benitez has been announced. It might even be over 2 weeks since Rafa Benitez has been announced as Everton manager, and we've only just seen the first initial press conference. Now, obviously, he'd done that interview when he was announced. On the day that he was announced, he had an interview with EvertonFC.com, and he sat down and he already spoke about a lot of the questions that were put to him yesterday. He spoke about managing Liverpool Football Club. He spoke about some of the things that he'd said in the past. So a lot of the questions that were asked yesterday, certainly at the start of the press conference, the questions that the press were obviously trying to get an answer out of Rafa Benitez, he'd already answered them previously, so it was pretty much just the same answers that we'd heard before. And I think that's really clever of the club to do that, because practically what the club have done is they've gone, right, well, we'll save you sitting in front of the press and being hounded with these question after question about your past and where you've managed before and your connection with Liverpool, etc. The day after you've been announced, when it's still a little bit sort of raw with fans and it hasn't completely digested, we'll give it 2 weeks. We'll put videos out of training sessions and how you are with the players and an interview out with you, and we'll do various different things to try and sort of settle the mood. And the club have done that. Let's be honest, there's method behind the reason as to why the club have decided to wait a couple of weeks before Rafa Benitez's first press conference, because they knew that as soon as that press conference started, he'd be asked those difficult questions. Now, the club obviously wanted to make sure that he'd already answered those questions in an interview that the club had done on the first day of his appointment, to get them out the way, and also that they'd had a couple of weeks to, like I said, to put out little training videos of Rafa Benitez with the players and talking to some of the players and looking like he's guiding training and knowing what where people need to be. Some quotes from Rafa Benitez about the future of the football club and what he wants the football club to achieve. Obviously, we had the friendly on Saturday against Accrington Stanley, again first win as Everton manager, and all of this is being put there on purpose, and that was so that we got to a point where we were yesterday, effectively, where the majority of Evertonians, once hearing those questions put to Rafa Benitez about his past and certain things, were sort of just a bit frustrated about it. What's the need to bring those up? What's the need to bring those questions up? He's already answered them. He's Everton manager now. He's been Everton manager for 2 weeks. He's talking about the future. We've already won our first pre-season game. That wouldn't have been the case had he have had his first press conference a day or two after the our appointments, obviously, because we wouldn't have seen those training videos. We wouldn't have known about the game against Accrington Stanley, the win against Accrington Stanley. We won't have seen the various different bits and bobs of Rafa Benitez in the last couple of weeks that I think have made Evertonians go, actually, do you know what? Let's just get behind this fella, because this could be a real success. Now, obviously, we've seen those, and that's why the press conference would took place yesterday, in my opinion, which was a couple of weeks after, obviously, the appointment. But overall, look, I thought it went really well. To be honest with you, I thought he handled the difficult questions well, as you would expect. Rafa Benitez is a top professional. He's been around the game for a long time. He knows how to handle the media. He knows what to say and what not to say. He knows what's going to be said as well. I think he prepared for the first 5 minutes of that press conference to be, they were like vultures, weren't they? Getting at him, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about the other? Now, the media would have probably loved that if they'd have had the opportunity to sit down with Rafa Benitez on the day he was announced as Everton manager before any of that sort of stuff had been spoken about. But Rafa Benitez has already spoken about his past in his first interview with Everton. He's already mentioned it on a couple of times. and spoke about how he was defending his club at the time, and he'll do the same with Everton. So when he come out with that same answer yesterday, we were all happy with the answer because it's a great answer, but also we were all frustrated with the question because we've already heard the answer. And I think it's really clever of Everton and Rafa Benitez to do that, in my opinion. That mightn't have been the method. They might have just not had any space in the calendar for 2 weeks, but I think it's a really good idea to wait and give it that period to allow everybody to digest and accept the appointment, and even get behind the appointment to the point where those questions are frustrating fans because they shouldn't be asked. But yeah, like I said, I thought it was a very professional press conference, as you would expect. I thought he handled it really well. I thought some of the questions and answers about Everton's future and where Everton want to be were answered brilliantly. Thought he conducted himself really well, very professional, straight to the point. Like you said, all things you'd expect from a manager that's been around football for a long time and been very successful in football as well. 13 trophies, Rafa Benitez knows how to work the press and what to say and what not to say, and that's really, really important. It was a positive we used to say about Carlo Ancelotti a lot, is that he wouldn't be twisted inside out in press conferences, and he wouldn't be forced down one road to say one certain thing or another certain thing, because he'd know exactly what to say and what not to say, and he'd manage the press conference himself. I think Rafa Benitez is going to be very similar to this, and that comes with the experience of those types of managers. And yeah, like I said, I was impressed with it, impressed with everything he had to say, impressed with his answers. He spoke about financial fair play, he spoke about James Rodriguez, he spoke about talking to the senior players and needing a change in attitude in the team and a change in mentality within the squad. He spoke about Big Dunc as well, and the importance of having Duncan Ferguson still at Everton Football Club. So we will go into greater detail on everything that Rafael Benitez has said in today's video. I haven't got the questions he was directly asked, but I've got the answers, so we can sort of try and put two and two together and piece them up. So anyway, let's get straight into it. First question Rafael Benitez was asked, I believe, was around Everton Football Club, and obviously I think Liverpool's name was thrown in there about managing Liverpool and why come to to manage Everton and this, that and the other. And Rafael Benitez said, obviously I know about the club, about the tradition, the history and the ambition of the owners. All these things, for anyone who knows the history of the club, it's quite easy. I'm at home, I want to compete, to challenge for whatever you challenge. So again, really, really good answer. Really, really good answer from Rafael Benitez there, being basically put why Everton, why choose Everton when you've got this, history with this club, whatever, why Everton. He also went on to say it's a great opportunity, a challenge for me, and I'm really pleased with that, which is absolutely fantastic. He was then asked a question about the banners outside of the stadium and outside of the home, and if that would have put him off become an Everton manager at any one point. There was this overriding question, wasn't there, a couple of weeks ago before Rafael Benitez was announced as Everton manager, is would these banners that we saw outside the ground and some absolutely disgusting ones outside houses over the water, would they scare Rafael Benitez? Would they make him, think twice about taking this Everton job? Rafael Benitez said, to be fair, the Evertonians around my place were happy and very supportive. Even the Liverpudlians were happy that I have returned to the Premier League. We can talk about the banners, but it's one or two people. So again, didn't seem very very interested in it whatsoever. He answered with a smile, he answered quite confidently, he answered as if, yeah, it's not going to put me off. He also spoke about this again later in the press conference, which we'll talk about his decision being made, and that was it, that was final. No amount of banner would put him off that. But I think, again, I thought that was a really, really good answer. Again, taking it away from the minority and putting it back onto the majority and saying, hang on, a lot of Evertonians were happy, a lot of Evertonians were content with the appointment, and a lot more Evertonians are now happy as well. We've seen in these live streams themselves, when we've done polls in these live streams, we went from one day we had 89% against Rafael Benitez, and literally 4 or 5 days later it was 90% for Rafael Benitez. So that's how quickly things can change when you actually accept and realise, what's going on, and accept it for what it is, and start to look at the positives and start to look at how this could work. And to be honest, I haven't even just accepted Rafael Benitez's appointment as Everton manager. I've not just digested it, I'm happy with it. And I'll admit that now. I've got no problem with admitting that I'm happy that Rafael Benitez is the Everton manager, because I think so far, and I get that he's only been here, a couple of weeks, and I get that he hasn't had an awful lot to do so far because obviously we're in pre-season, but I think everything he's done so far, everything he's said, has been pretty much spot on. He hasn't shied away from his connections with previous clubs. He hasn't come out and said, oh yeah, I shouldn't have said that comment, sorry, because that would make him look like a bit of a fool. He's come out and basically said, and we'll talk about the comments in a moment. We know which comment we're talking about, by the way. He's basically come out and said, yeah, I said it because I was defending my football club, and I'll do it for Everton. And I like that. I absolutely like that. I'd love an Everton manager to come out and say some things that are a bit unsavoury about other football clubs in order to defend Everton. I'd love that, because that means you've got a manager that backs your club, and that, you know, is fighting for your club. And that's what Everton have wanted for years. That's what Evertonians have wanted for absolute years. Yes, he's done it with another club, and it so happened to be Everton on the receiving end of the criticism. But again, I've got no big issue with that. I don't think it was personal. It was just, you know, backing the club he was managing at that time. And I think if Rafa Benitez can bring that type of backing and that type of fight for Everton, I think he could be a massive, massive success. Anyway, let's get on to the next point. Again, he was asked about the small club comments. First 3 questions, one about his Liverpool connection, one about the banners, one about the small club comment. The media were waiting for this, weren't they? Absolutely waiting for this. And everybody at Everton, including Rafael Benitez, would have known this was the case. He was asked about the small club comments made about 15 years ago, and he said, I said before that it depends on the context. It's a long time ago. You are fighting for your club, and it's what I will do now in this case. I will fight for Everton, try to do my best in every single game, and fight against anyone. And I think that, to be honest, is an absolutely perfect way to answer that question. An absolutely perfect way to answer that question. He's not apologised and made a bit of a mockery of the situation. He's not sort of tried to twist himself in and out and go, oh no, you know, basically I didn't mean to say, I meant to say this, I meant to say the other. He's basically just said, effectively, yeah, I said it because I was fighting for the club I was managing at that time, and I will fight for Everton because I'm managing Everton now. And if that means I upset some other people, then so be it. That means I upset some other people because I'm fighting for Everton against anyone. And I really, really like that. And I think we'll see that side of Rafael Benitez, Everton manager, as well. I just really like his answer. I wasn't too fussed on the comments anyway in the first place. You know, I wasn't too bothered about it. But the way he's answered that, I think is absolutely perfect. And like I said before, Rafael Benitez is a very experienced man. He sat down with the media a lot of times. He sat down with the media in Italy, who were notoriously ruthless for managers if they're not doing too well. Spain, Real Madrid. You know, the Spanish media don't give Real Madrid managers a minute if they're not doing well. Obviously, best of luck to Carlo, not. So he knows how to handle media in different countries. He knows what to say and what not to say and how to answer questions. And I thought that was a spot-on question, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. He's then asked a little bit more about Everton. Thankfully, 5-10 minutes into the press conference, and he's actually asked his first question about Everton Football Club and the targets that Everton are looking to approach. He said, it's always complicated. My approach since I was in Valencia was one game at a time. And after we see what happens, I know how the team finished last year, and we will try to ensure we can do better. So talking about the targets for next season in the Premier League, of course, and again, a pretty standard answer by Rafael Benitez. Nothing too much to look into with that one. He was asked about transfers. Denzel Dumfries' name was specifically thrown in there, but I think he was just thrown in there as an example of some players that we've been linked with at the moment. Rafael Benitez says, I'm quite happy with the commitment of the lads. They are training well. I think we can improve things if we can add players, and they are good for us. That is the objective. Again, very, very good answer. Not coming out and saying, yes, the squad's very shite and we haven't got enough great players. Basically come out and saying the players at the moment are doing well, but we will look to add quality to the team. And that's exactly what we want to hear, because let's be honest, we've had this conversation on a number of times. Forgetting your manager, forgetting the new stadium, forgetting the kit launches and all this and all that. If Everton do not invest in this squad in the summer, if Everton do not bring in 3, 4, 5 players, we're not going to achieve anything next season, in my opinion. And look, again, I know it's difficult with financial fair play and the Moise Kean situation, which we sat down and we spoke about yesterday, and how that will affect Everton's business this summer. If you haven't checked that video out, please do so after this live stream. But we still need to invest. We need to find some way to get around it, because we need to bring in players this summer. Effectively, there's no other choice. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. It only takes a second. If you could share the stream, that would mean a great deal to me. Again, Rafael Benitez was asked about Everton's fans' reservations with the appointment and what he thought about Everton fans maybe not being too happy with his appointment. He said, that is football. It's quite emotional. Everybody will have their own opinions. The only thing I can say is that I will fight for my team like I did in every place I was working and show everybody we can compete. He also said, I will be the first one there pushing and pushing to get what we want, whether that's the 3 points in the game or to go far in the cup competitions. Again, brilliant answer by Rafael Benitez. I think he hit the nail spot on. He then said, I am a professional and very competitive. I have confidence that we've done it before and we can do it now. We are creating an atmosphere that will allow us to compete at the maximum level. Notice this, we have created an atmosphere. We can do it now. We are creating an atmosphere. We've done it before to compete at the maximum level. I'll be the first one pushing to get what we want. We. Those little things, and you mightn't have particularly paid too much attention to that yesterday when you were watching the press conference, but it's those, little words and descriptive words that sit really well, certainly with me anyway. People might be different for other people, but certainly with me, describing Everton as a we, again, automatically ensuring that we're all together, we all behind this. And Rafael Benitez has known that he's come into a football club where there is a selection of fans that aren't happy with his appointment whatsoever and aren't willing to accept his appointment whatsoever. And in order to get fans on his side, he knows that he can't just turn up and go, I'm sorry about saying what I said 15 years ago, because people will just see right through that and go, that's a nonsense apology, you're only saying it to try and get us on our side. So what he's done is he's been honest. He's gone, yeah, I said it because I was fighting for my club at the time and I don't regret that. I'll do it again if I have to, with Everton, fighting for Everton. Not do it again what he said, but I'd do it to other clubs if I had to while I'm fighting for Everton. And he's come out and he's using words like we will try and get what we will get what we want. I'll push so that we finish the highest that we possibly can. We've done it before, we can do it again. These types of things are just I think just the little things that make you go, yeah, do you know what, it feels a lot better, rather than say Everton, would we rather Rafael Benitez come out and say, yeah, Everton have been a European team before, so I hope to get Everton there, or say, well, we've been a European team before, so I hope that we get there. Because he's automatically personalising it to himself as the Everton manager, and I like that. I really do like that. John says, I think he meant his two mates that have come with him at Everton. He did on certain occasions when he references to we, he is talking about his friends, but when he says things like I'll be the first one there pushing to get what we want, whether it's the 3 points or the competition to go far, or to go far in cup competitions, I think he's talking about we as in Everton Football Club. So there you go. I might have read that wrong, but I personally think that's what he's talking about. He also spoke about Jordan Pickford and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He was asked directly if he had spoken to Jordan Pickford and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, as well as the other international lads. And he said he's spoken to both Dom and Jordan. He's trying to keep up with as many of those players that are on international duties. I can only assume he's talking about Richarlison, Yerry Mina, whilst he can. However, obviously it's a little bit difficult at the moment with everyone being in various different places, but he said that Jordan and Dom will rest up and they'll return in due course, and he's spoken to them, which we knew anyway. Jordan Pickford come out, didn't he, a week or so ago, and said that he'd spoken to Rafael Benitez and he'd said for him to do well and stuff like that. So again, just another little touch, which is very good in my opinion. Everton boy said you're looking a bit ginger there, Cam. You know what? My dad says that sometimes. I don't think I am personally, but there you go. Nothing wrong with gingers, obviously. Rafael Benitez was then asked about Chelsea for some strange reason. He was asked about basically the question was put to him of the Chelsea fans and the not so nice reception that he got when he was managing Chelsea, and whether he thought that would be the case in Liverpool with Everton fans, and is it similar in this, that and the other. And he basically said, to be fair, when I was in Chelsea in Coburn, I was going to the supermarkets and the fans were really good. The majority of the fans every day were fine. Liverpool is my city. Now obviously a lot of people on the blue side will be pleased if I am successful. Absolutely spot on. He also said, I don't see a big issue. I think that the fans appreciate that we are here to do well for the club, and if we do well, nobody will be talking about what happened in the past. And that is absolutely spot on, by the way. That is absolutely spot on. And I've seen some Everton fans, and again, listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but I've seen some Everton fans on social media and stuff saying that, even if we win the league, I won't be happy and I want him sacked. That's utter nonsense. That is utter nonsense. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and that's fine. And I'm not saying that even if we win the league, you have to absolutely love Rafael Benitez and get a tattoo of him. I'm not saying that. But if you can sit there and say, even if Everton win the league, you won't be happy because he's the manager, you're not an Evertonian, because that's utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Because if Everton win the league, it's not about who's in the dugout, it's not about who's on the pitch, it's about Everton Football Club winning the league. And that's what we all want. If Everton win a trophy under Rafa Benitez, then surely we all should be happy, because that's what we all want. I'm not saying we all have to love Rafa Benitez. I'm not saying we all have to love, laud him and this, that and the other. Like I said, if he wins trophies, I'm not saying that. You can still have your reservations, you can still have your opinion on him, but surely we'll all be absolutely over the moon if Everton is successful under Rafa Benitez. If Everton win the league, I just can't see a world in where any Evertonian isn't happy with that because of who's in the dugout. I'd be absolutely... you wouldn't see me for weeks. I'd be absolutely made up. If Everton won a corner next season, I'll be absolutely made up. Never mind a trophy or a league title, which again is not going to happen next year, but you get what I'm saying. So Rafa Benitez is spot on there. People can say what they want, but if we're successful, then I'm sure everybody will be pleased, and I'm sure everybody will be hoping that we're successful, and that's all we can do now, because he's the Everton manager, whether we agree with it or not. And I'm sure a lot of people now have gotten past that stage, and it's just at this stage where it's like, yeah, let's get behind it and hope we do well, and hope Rafa Benitez does well, and that's where I'm at, certainly. Peter Cardi says, folks, hit the like, help the lad out. Thank you very much, Peter, really appreciate that. If you could hit that like button, it would mean a great deal to me. John says, I don't think Caldy counts as Liverpool. Pterodactyl says, the questioning was expected, not a shock. Yep, spot on, mate. And John says, come to Thailand, they are crazy for gingers here. I can't believe it's being called ginger then in the live team. Nothing wrong with gingers, obviously. Absolutely nothing wrong with gingers, but can someone back me up here? It's blonde. It's definitely blonde. Rafael Benitez, again, I'm getting in the swing of doing press conference reaction for the last 12 months. Rafael Benitez was then asked about the Premier League and his return to the Premier League and the competitiveness and if it's changed during his time away. He said, it's not easy, the Premier League, for anyone. My idea is that the team has confidence, that they can feel they can be stronger if they can stick together and bring some players to fill the gaps, to create a team that can be more competitive and better than last season. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. He spoke about having conversations with senior players and the mentality at the football club. He said, yes, I will tell you that I have had conversations with some senior players. All of them are serious, but they have all realised that something is missing. For me, it's the winning mentality that has to be there from the first day to the last day. Again, really, really good comment there by Rafael Benitez, effectively saying that you have to be able to compete as well on the first day as you do on the last day. Not turn up on the last game of the season thinking, the season's over soon, and get our feet up and this, that and the other and all of this sort of stuff. No, you compete at the highest level on the first day, and you compete at the highest level on the last day as well. And, again, talking about the Premier League and how different the Premier League is now and how much, how much sort of stronger it is, but also talking about having conversations with senior players there, which I think was a little bit, I suppose, refreshing that that's now come out, but also worrying that senior players have noticed that something's missing at the football club. Rafa Benitez believes it's the winning mentality. Maybe it is. Maybe it is the winning mentality. Maybe that's what's keeping Everton back. It wouldn't surprise me. I think he's also probably got in the back of his mind that we're missing a lot of good players as well, and a strong squad, because we certainly haven't got one of those. But look, again, Rafael Benitez has identified there, obviously within the first couple of weeks of his role as Everton manager, that something needs to change, that there needs to be a mentality shift, that these players need to start believing that they can win games of football and believing that they can compete in every game of football. Rafa was then asked about who contacted who got in touch with who for the job. Was it Rafa Benitez getting in touch with Everton? Was it Everton getting in touch with Rafael Benitez? He said that when somebody knew I was available, we had started the contact little by little. Blinchong. We were sharing communication, interviews. I wanted to come back and have a competitive team. I think it was not so easy. It is what we were looking for from their side and my side. He was then asked about Duncan Ferguson and his role at the football club. He said, I knew him because I've been watching games. So again, this is something we spoke about week before last, about Rafael Benitez being, sort of a serial worker, a non-stop worker. He's been known to sleep at training grounds before. He's known for being the first person in on the day of training and the last person out. Now, this is something he didn't have to do. Rafael Benitez didn't have to go away and watch Duncan Ferguson playing for Everton Football Club during his playing career. All he had to do was maybe do a little bit of research about his coaching ability and maybe talk to a couple of the players about how well he does at coaching and working with the players. But he hasn't. He's gone away and he's looked at him as a player and he's watched videos of him as a striker. Why he didn't really need to do that, but he's obviously felt he's wanted to do it to gauge a bit more of an understanding about Big Dunc and Big Dunc's personality, and also Big Dunc's relationship with Everton and how important Duncan Ferguson is to Everton Football Club, because I think that's really, really important. Rafa's obviously gone away and gone, okay, I can analyse Dunc as a coach, I can analyse Dunc as how he works with the players now, but let me go away and have a look at what he was like as a player, what the fans responded to him like as a player, how important he is as a figure to this football club. And that's clearly what Rafa Benitez is as wanted to do. He said, I knew him because I've been watching games. Another thing I checked was his goals as a player, and we could use him as a player. He can play. He is a legend here. So there you go. Maybe Dunc will get a little game up front. I'm sure he'll be happy about that one. He also went on to say he can be an inspiration for a lot of them and helpful for me. I think a lot of them talking about the players on the pitch, which again is also spot on. Again, he was asked that question that we spoke about before, about whether or not the banners and whether or not the criticism from fans had put him off, joining Everton and becoming the new Everton manager, which again was a little bit of a silly question to ask, because I'm not too sure why he'd come out and say, yeah, it put me off, yeah, but in the end I decided to come. He was never going to say that. He said, when I decided to start talking, I was convinced that this was a great opportunity. It's not something I'm scared of, it's the opposite. I want to do well to win. I'm sure that we will do it, and we can do it well. Again, another fantastic quote there by Rafa Benitez, absolutely spot on. He was asked about Everton's style. He said, I think we have to create a team that will be competitive, that has to fight for the shirt from the first minute until the last. It doesn't matter about the name of the opponent. Try to win. That's it. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant there by Rafael Benitez, coming out and basically saying it doesn't matter who you're coming up against, firstly you try and win. He also mentioned a bit of an analysis. He said that there was once a Spanish coach. Now I don't know who he was referring to be honest with you, when he mentioned this. I didn't know if originally he was referring to himself or somebody else, but he talked about there once being a Spanish coach years ago in football who had a tough decision to make. He either played nice football and lost, or played nice football and lost, or played bad football and won, and he chose to play nice football and lost, and he was basically ripped to bits in the media for it, and that was a mistake that he made. And Rafael Benitez said, ultimately we all want to play lovely football and we all want to win games of football playing lovely football, but it's about winning, and you win how you win. And if you win in a negative way, then you win in a negative way. If you win in a positive way, then brilliant. But it's all about winning games of football first and foremost, and it's that type of mentality that we need at the football club. We all want to go and watch Everton, blather Brighton 5-0 or go to Burnley and beat them 4-0 and it'd be absolutely brilliant. We all want to see Everton absolutely steamrolling teams, but ultimately I'd take a 1-0 boring, hard watch win in every game next season, because that means we win the league and we go undefeated, and we probably have the best season in Premier League history doing that. So I get that we all want to be entertained and we all want to watch brilliant, entertaining football, but first and foremost, it's about winning games of football. And then once you've nailed down winning games of football, you then look at how you can improve the way in which you win and the way in which you play. Big thanks, by the way, if you're watching so far. Please hit that like button. It only takes a second. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Jason says, I'm getting around the fact that Rafa is our manager. Give him our support. Cam, top work on the channel. Thank you very much, Jason. Really do appreciate that, my mate. Yeah, I'm happy with him now. I'm happy with him, like I said. Tuesday Delaney says, hi Cam, Everton must keep our Gylfi. There you go. Pterodactyl says bedsheet diplomacy. Yeah. John says Wenger had Pat Rice, Pep had Brian Kidd, so having Dunc is normal. Spot on. And Peter says there's 61 people watching and only 26 likes. Press the like button, people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peter. Really appreciate it. If you could hit that like button, by the way, it would be boss. It would mean a great deal to me. I think this was the question that sort of maybe had everybody thinking yesterday, when not only when Rafael Benitez was asked the question, but also when he answered it. He was asked about James Rodriguez and the impact that James Rodriguez could have on Everton going forward, and basically the importance of him as a player. And Rafael Benitez said, I am sure your friends will be asking about players, but I think it's better to talk about the team than individuals, because it's not fair on the others. Now, I've got a lot of opinions on this. I have got a lot of opinions on Rafael Benitez saying this, because I think, firstly, on face value, that sort of may say to a lot of Evertonians, that's it. You know, James Rodriguez has got no future at the football club. He's not going to stay here. It's not the answer we wanted. And that's because Rafael Benitez didn't come out and go, oh my God, James Rodriguez is absolutely unbelievable. I love him. He's boss. He's the best player we've ever had. And I hope he never ever leaves. That's not Rafael Benitez. Now, I'll use an example here that you probably won't be happy with because it's mentioning a certain Liverpool player. But it works really well with this situation. Steven Gerrard has talked openly in the past. Listen, I don't like Steven Gerrard, nobody does, but Steven Gerrard has talked openly in the past about the relationship he had with Rafael Benitez when he was managing him at Liverpool. And he's spoken in depth about never really knowing if Rafael Benitez liked him as a player, never really knowing if Rafael Benitez was happy with him as a player, because there'd be times when Steven Gerrard had scored a hat-trick for Liverpool and win a game single-handedly on his own, and Benitez would still pull him aside at the end of the game and say, why didn't you make that pass in the middle of the park on the 60th minute? Why didn't you feed him in when he was through on goal? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? So Rafael Benitez, and that was Steven Gerrard, who was arguably the most successful player to have ever played under Rafael Benitez. So if Rafael Benitez is going to do that to a player who, again, is widely a success and was in the prime of his career, then what's to say that he'll do different to Everton players now? And by that, what I mean is that Rafael Benitez coming out and saying, I don't want to talk about individuals, I want to talk about the team. That is the type of manager that Rafael Benitez is. That's not something new. He's not just come into Everton and gone, right, I'm not going to talk about James because he's leaving, blah, blah, like that. I don't talk about individuals, I only talk about the team. No, that's just Rafael Benitez as a manager. I'm sure if he was asked a question about any other player, he would have answered in exactly the same fashion. Now, bit contradictory, he goes on to talk about Seamus Coleman, but I think the Seamus situation's a bit different. But I think if he was asked about Moise Keane, he'd have said that. I think if he was asked about Michael Keane, he'd have said that. Yerry Mina, he'd have said that. Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And we'd probably all be sitting here now going, oh my God, he's basically just not answered the question about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Does that mean he's going? No, effectively what it means is Rafael Benitez doesn't want to come out and start lauding and, you know, absolutely falling head over heels over certain players because he wants to ensure that every player is treated the same and that it's a team. It's a team-based situation. We improve as a team. We work as a team. We talk about the team as a whole, not just specific individuals within the team. There we go. We're back. Apologies about that. Again, probably about T-minus 2 weeks away from the new computer coming here, so you're just going to have to bear with me until then. It is ordered. It won't be long. If you are watching and you are enjoying, please hit that like button. If you have just noticed a couple of people have left, so if you could share the stream and try and get as many people back involved, that would mean a fantastic amount to me. It really, really would. But as I was saying before my computer decided to rudely interrupt me, maybe James Rodriguez is running my computer. I actually think this could be good for James Rodriguez, having a manager that isn't necessarily going to sit there and, you know, blow a load of smoke up his back end and sit there and say he's the best thing ever. Maybe having a manager that's going to push him and try and make him work as hard as possible, as well as everybody else. Human says it throws badly, friend. Yeah, it does. It does sometimes, but it always kicks itself back in gear. I'll be getting a new PC within the next week or so hopefully those issues will be fixed. But maybe that's what James needs. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe James isn't happy with that. Maybe James will look to move somewhere else because he wants a manager like a Carlo Ancelotti who was willing to put his arm around him and sort of say, you know, you're the best thing ever and you're the most important thing. But look, James Rodriguez ultimately is very important to Everton. He really is. He's a brilliant player. His stats last season were fantastic, even in the fact that he missed out on a lot of games that we would effectively like them to have been there for. His stats were still absolutely brilliant. And I'd love James Rodriguez to stay at Everton. I really would, because I think he's a top footballer. And I'm sure that Rafael Benitez would love James Rodriguez to stay at Everton Football Club as well. But ultimately, another thing is that Rafa's not necessarily going to come out and, you know, give everything about how James Rodriguez is our most important player, and, you know, it's very important that we need to keep James Rodriguez, and then in 2 weeks' time James decides that he wants to leave, and then Rafael Benitez is in this situation where he's like, well, I've just said all of this about you, and now you want him to leave. Whereas now, if James Rodriguez wants to leave Everton, there's no, you know, those words haven't been put out there, so Rafa can look back and go, well, yeah, I said that. For as much as he's a good player, I said that it's about the team, and it still is about the team. So that's not an answer that we should be, we shouldn't be surprised by. I expect a lot more answers very similar to that in the next coming weeks and months and within the next coming press conferences, because that's typically how Rafa Benitez addresses things. He's more squad orientated than specific player orientated. But it was a little bit interesting. I was watching it with Baz from Toffee TV, and we just both sort of side-eyed each other and thought, hang on, what does that mean? But then the more you sort of look into it, the more you think, well, actually, yeah, it makes a bit of sense. But hopefully, look, James Rodriguez has looked happy in the training videos that we've seen over the last week or so. He looked happy. He's playing obviously in the game against Accrington Stanley the other day, and I do hope James Rodriguez stays at Everton. I do, because I really like him. I think he's a fantastic player, and I think he could play a big part in our season next season. So there you go. Pterodactyl says winning brings enjoyment. It does. You're absolutely spot on. Rafa then went on to talk about Seamus Coleman. Last topic of the press conference was he mentioned Seamus Coleman. Again, little bit contradictory, because he refused to talk about James Rodriguez specifically and wants to speak about the squad, but then went on to talk about Seamus Coleman. But anyway, he said, since I am here, I've talked with him so many times. I think he is an inspiration for everybody. Very good professional, and today, 20 minutes before I came here, I was talking to him. He can be a key player. Can he be the captain? Yes, why not? So again, some fans might say, well, hang on, you've just talked about not wanting to speak about James Rodriguez specifically because you want to talk about the team, but you've talked about Seamus Coleman specifically. Look, I get that. I do. I get all of that, but I think Seamus is a bit of a different situation, isn't he? Seamus is a player that has obviously been at Everton Football Club for a long time. Bleeds Everton Football Club. Bleeds blue. Again, a key figure at the club, captain of the football club, and probably coming towards the end of his consistent game time at the football club as well. Hopefully, if we bring in a right back this summer, we won't be seeing Seamus Coleman week in, week out. So I think it's a bit different to talk about Seamus in that way than to talk about any of the other players within the squad, really. But there you go. That concludes Rafa Benitez's first press conference as Everton manager. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments before we finish up. What did you think about the press conference? Did you enjoy it? Were you pleased with it? Do you think some of the questions were maybe a little bit silly and shouldn't have been asked? Or do you think Rafa Benitez handled it in as good of a manner as he possibly could? I think he did, personally. I think he handled it absolutely brilliantly. But let us know in the live comments before we finish up. If you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comment section of the comments of the YouTube video, and we'll get involved with as many of them as possible. If you're enjoying, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, all of that good stuff. Robert says Seamus is finished. I don't think he's finished. I just don't think he's capable of playing week in, week out anymore. June says Mina has to stay, was our best central defender last season. I really like Yerry Mina. I really, really like Yerry Mina, and I hope Yerry Mina does stay, to be honest with you. I do, because I think he is our best centre half effectively. Pterodactyl says Seamus is captain. Robert says Coleman, Davis and Gomez will get the manager sacked by Xmas. I still don't understand why Tom Davis gets a bad rap, to be honest. I think Tom Davis was one of our best players last season. Pterodactyl says they were always going to ask those questions. Yeah, spot on, mate, spot on. Dennis says seems more invested than Carlo. He does. He seems more interested than Carlo ever did, to be honest with you. John Jones says press conferences are a waste of time unless you need to know who is injured. Fair enough. Peter says, I've given up wondering who we're going to buy and sell, just going to wait till it's set in stone. June says it's a bit worrying no players are in yet. We spoke about players yesterday when we talked about the Moise Keane situation and the difficulty Everton have got with financial fair play at the moment, and how close we are to that financial fair play bracket. And I would expect if Moise Keane was to stay at Everton, we would bring in maybe one or two players max, unless we find another way to bring some income in, i.e. through sponsorship, i.e. through, I don't know, Mr. Macheri finding a clever way around it, or us selling another member of the squad, or managing to get rid of 4 or 5 of the deadwood players for a considerable amount of money, which I don't think is going to happen. So yeah, there you go. Jack the Lad says Tom Davis, one of our best players. What have you been watching? Last season, I honestly think Tom Davis was one of our most impressive players. Can you name me, more than 3 games that Tom Davis made mistakes in last season? I thought he had a good season, but there you go. It's opinions, isn't it? Opinions and opinions. Ted says, I only knew Carlo was alive when his eyebrow moved. Robert says, my mum is 76 and quicker than Seamus. Oh, let's not give Seamus a bad rap. Andy says, Rafa Benitez did well. The journos need to move on to the questions about the team. Any controversy about the appointment is all news now. Spot on, mate. Spot on. Couldn't have put it better myself. John Jones says, let's forget the manager and enjoy the football and the players. Listen, I'm happy with the manager, mate. I'm happy with him. Tuesday Delaney says, Cam, my shirt comes today is right, mate. Pterodactyl says, dodged Football, it's acceptable if you win. It's hard work if you don't. There you go. Dennis says the question of style still was not answered. Pterodactyl says looks like Ireland's Tuesday. Eugene says Neil Kitchley confirms Blackpool's transfer stance on Ellis Sims. There you go. Pterodactyl says Hammers is forever on a plane. Rumour is that he still hasn't landed. Imagine it, mate. John says if you want style with a poor squad, you get another Martinez situation. Fair enough. Marty says all everyone's worried about is Rafa, not the squad, not the Deadwood, not the youngsters not getting a game, not the ridiculous wages for players not playing. For me, that's worrying. Well, he mentioned players not playing, didn't he? The Echo put out an article yesterday saying that he spoke about not the Echo, sorry, the Daily Mail, saying that he spoke about certain players on big wages that aren't playing enough games that would warrant that wage, and there's a lot of players that would fall into that category, and he spoke about needing to find a solution for that. Mitchell says, are you going to be a permanent fixture on TFTV next season? I assume you mean Toffee TV next season. Yes, I am going to be a permanent fixture, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm going down there again today. So yeah. Chenlar says, hey Cam, do you know when the next FIFA episode will be out with you and Ned? They're seriously amazing and so funny. Thank you very much, mate. I don't. I'll speak to Ned today. I'll see him in about an hour and a half or so. So I'll speak to him today and I'll get him to either contact you or I'll try and find out when the next episode is, and I'll let you know in tomorrow's live stream. Human says, how would you feel if we signed Ansu Fati for 25 million? Is that even a thing? Ansu Fati's unbelievable, but I highly doubt it. Maybe if you put an O on the end of that, it'd be realistic. John Jones says we're the 7th richest club in England, so expect to finish there. Spurs are the 6th richest, but 3 times richer than us. We need to overperform like Leicester. Yeah, you're spot on. It's not just about how rich you are; it's about what you do with the money, effectively. And Everton have shown that in the past, however many years. We've spent 300, 400, 500 million pounds, and we've got absolutely nowhere with it. So it's not just about having the money; it's about spending the money in the right ways. Nathan says, I thought he handled the questions brilliantly, to be honest, and with professionalism, as you would expect. Spot on. Adam, she says, probably thought the interview they released would dampen the questions for the press conference. Well, it did in a way, didn't it? Because it dampened the reaction of fans to the answers of the questions, and it also dampened, Rafa Benitez's reaction. The same questions were answered, but we'd already heard the answers from the initial interview, and Rafa Benitez has already answered them in the initial interview, so nobody was surprised by what he had to say in those regards, and I think for that reason they were dampened, weren't they? Danboy says, morning Cam, can you see us having a modest window? Luckily Benitez has a track record of getting the most out of average players. Could be a good season for Holgate, Iwobi, Gomez and a couple of others. I think you'll see maybe 3 players, certainly 3 permanent players. Everton might then be a little bit clever about it and bring in loan deals, or try and bring in players that there's different ways of financing for. But I think in terms of straight up permanent deals, you might see 2 or 3, purely because of our FFP situation, unless PSG come in with a big bid for Moise Kean and the club sell Moise Kean or somebody else. So it'll be a difficult summer. Without selling, it'll be a really difficult summer. Mike says, morning Cam, as pleased with Rafa's first presser, he'll do a good job, I'm sure. Interesting board appointments, mate. Yes, another little bit of news I suppose we can talk about before we finish up the live stream. Everton confirmed yesterday a couple of things actually. Everton confirmed, or Rafa Benitez confirmed, that there would be 2 additions or 3 additions to his backroom staff. Francisco Di Miguel Marino and Duncan Ferguson would become assistant managers at Everton. Dunc obviously becoming the assistant manager, which is great again, as well as Francisco Di Miguel Marino, and Antonio Gomez will become the club's first team coach and senior analyst, which is absolutely brilliant. Alan Kelly will remain as the goalkeeper coach, of course, which we already knew. And in other news, Everton also confirmed yesterday that they have appointed Savar Ismailov and Grant Ingles to the board of directors. Savar Ismailov is the nephew of Alisher Usmanov. He's been heavily involved in Everton women for the last couple of seasons, and was also involved in the stadium stuff as well, and now he has been appointed to Everton's board of directors. He talked about his blood bleeding blue and looking forward to the future at the football club and wanting to do really well with the football club. Grant Ingles is a financial, works in finance and has been at the club for a long time in various different roles, etc. So those two have been appointed to the Everton board. Just briefly on that, again, happy that we've got another couple of members of the board. I think it's always good to have a bigger board. You've got more opinions, you've got more decisions to be made, you've got differences in opinions as well. And obviously, Ismailov is the nephew of Alisher Usmanov, so I'm sure Uncle Alisher will be getting involved a little bit more now than he was previously. But yeah, for me, again, I think it's always good to have more members of the board, more differences in opinions, and yeah. Mike says, morning. Oh, we read that one out. Adam, she says, if he employs a single tactic in any football game, he's already done better than Carlo. Human says, I'm expecting us to sell no one and sign some bargain, useful, good players for about 50 million altogether. Hope so. Let's hope so. Jack the Lad says, Tom Davis had to be one of the worst last season without Alan. CDM, he's awful. I'd disagree, but fair enough. That's your opinion, and that's fair enough, mate. Alex says, Dumfries a right winger and keep Keane. Ted says, I tell you why Tom gets stick. He loses the ball a lot near our area. That's the reason. But I think statistically, if you look at his statistics, he doesn't actually lose the ball an awful lot in the area. Alex says, does it frustrate you that we don't buy championship players like Palace? A little bit, because a lot of Everton's recent history, certainly in my lifetime, a lot of those Everton legends, you look at your Leighton Baineses, your Tim Cahills, those types of players have come from championship clubs, and Andy Johnson and Jermaine Beckford, etc., and being a success at Everton. So it's a little bit frustrating, but again, Palace obviously have done some good business so far. Marty says, good chat, Cam, keep the faith. Thank you very much, Marty, really appreciate that. Right back would be a good purchase. I'm not too sure. You'll have to get his name. I'm not too sure who you're referring to there, mate. Jared Les says, Rafa being on TalkSport. Has he today? Interesting. Alex says, has to be tossing Iwobi and Delph out. Pterodactyl says, who wants them? True. And John says, the questions were childish. Rafa was made up. The journals need to ask better questions that are meaningfulness. He was expecting them. Yeah, fair enough. Look, we're going to finish it up there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. Massive thanks to everybody in the live comments as per usual. Really, really do appreciate it. If you've enjoyed the video, please do hit that big thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. It only takes a second, and yeah, it means a massive amount to me. If you're watching a YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and we'll get involved with as many of those comments as possible. Massive thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another live stream, so don't forget to look out for that one. And yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.